Hello, everyone, and welcome along to your Sunday night edition of the TII podcast. My name is Craig Dennett, and I have hot-footed it home from Ibrox earlier on this afternoon to host this podcast. Rangers run out 4-0 winners against Ross County, and I think what is one of our most comfortable performances to date. But joining me tonight to look back over that, as well as start to look ahead to the last day of the January transfer window, albeit it's February. We have Kyran Wallace. How are you doing, Kyran?
I'm good. Same as yourself, hot-footed at home, and good to come off the back of a bit of a routine win, albeit it probably doesn't mean too much. And also good to see a half of Bailey Rice. I think this is probably one of the positives that we get to see some of the youngsters getting bedded in, given the here and now. So, yeah, it was a nice one today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're also joined by JB as well, who was just telling us that Fluke once stuck the boot into Bailey Rice a little bit in his press conference. How are you doing, JB?
It was interesting, the press conference. He, to be honest, but he told us something that we didn't already know, which and then things kind of make sense. It's all right, us saying we want to see this, we want to see that, but when your job's on the line, you're going to play the best options in front of you, and if he's not seeing it, then that's it. But we'll get into that.
Absolutely. As I said, Rangers ran out 4-0 winners comfortably today. Ross County didn't offer a great deal, but just kick us off in the podcast and get us going. Kyran, you were at the game. What was your view of the performance overall? Who impressed you? Who maybe didn't impress you as much?
I thought it was, like I said, a routine win. We made sort of easy work of it. Someone who got man of the match in the stadium and really impressed me throughout was Clement Nsiala. He looked assured. He's starting to look like a confident centre-back. What I like about him is he's starting to show an aerial presence as well. How long has it been since we've got somebody that would just go and smash through the back of the striker and win the header? For a young guy, he seems to do that pretty well, and we've missed that. Again, we're still quite raw. I think we've yet to see the very best of him, but everything I've seen so far is pretty good, because you guys like me, and probably a lot of the viewers, would have heard quite a lot of negativity towards him before he actually made his breakthrough into the first team, given that he didn't really do so well in the B team. And that's maybe, I don't know, more of the reason why the B team stuff doesn't work, because it's just not comparable to how performances can be in the first team. I mean, players can be motivated by playing in front of so many fans, given the adrenaline and what's at stake. Very positive, everything I've seen of Nsiala, especially that Aberdeen performance a couple of weeks ago as well. So, aside from him, thinking in the lineup, who was I impressed by? Thought Hagi had another decent game. Gets on the score sheet twice today.
Yeah,
I know we're going to get on to him in the old sticker twist a bit, but yeah, I'm loving watching him again. So I hope he's here for a long time to come.
Yeah, Kyran, I think I was Nsiala. It was a couple of things that you mentioned. One of them there about Nsiala that impressed me, which was his aerial presence. It just felt like he won every header there was to win there today. But it was actually his passing which continues to impress me significantly. Not just the. I guess he seems to pass the normal passes with more purpose, but the long ranging switches of play which he has in his locker. We saw, I think the most impressive one today was the one to Czerny in the build up to the first goal. That was really impressive, and even just having the confidence to do that when you've only 5 or 6 games into your professional football career is really impressive. JB, was that something? Is Nsiala one that's kind of impressed you since he's come into the team? And we've got a comment here from Luke Gibson 97 says, keep Nsiala beside Suter. His value will only go up, while his proper due to his age will steadily decline. I think we have only seen Nsiala really beside either Robin Proper or Leon Balogun. Today was his first chance beside John Suter, and I think if there was a younger defender coming in, and even if you were the younger defender yourself, you would want to be beside the most experienced and best centre half at the club, and it felt like that's what it feels like. That's what John Suter is for us at this moment in time, and it looked like a really assured performance from both today.
Yeah, most definitely. I think just to touch on Nsiala, what the manager said as well, the manager did touch on the fact that he did struggle in BT games. So I thought that was quite interesting for him to come out and be so open, because I think, to your point, Craig, I think a lot of people have said that he just looks really uncomfortable and a bit rash, but he seems to be very calculated. I've been really impressed with him. I think he gives us balance. I think the point around playing with an experienced centre half, you've only got to look not that long ago. Connor Goldson made a lot of players look better than what they probably were, given the fact that he would never seem to shut up. He had that yard of pace and almost coach players through games. And look at Calvin Bassey. In terms of Calvin Bassey, obviously had the raw ability. We kind of seen that when he was linked with coming to us, but then there was a few games we were watching him. Was there a game up in, was it Falkirk or something midweek? I can't remember who it was. It was a League Cup game and he looked absolutely, St Mirren, he absolutely looked all over the place and you thought, oh, who's this fella here? Couldn't head the ball, looked really uncomfortable, looked dead clumsy. I think he gave away a penalty on the night. But then obviously look what he turned into now. The automatic comparison is, oh, he could be the next Calvin Bassey. I don't know whether we don't want to build him up too soon, but he's definitely just shown that little bit of composure. He's got a little bit of class. There was one today came over him, and it would have been quite easily just for him to hook it and put it out for a throw in. He pulled it down, he turned, easy pass into Raskin, and no, it was good. I don't think he's been tested yet, so it'll be interesting to see once he gets a right good test against. I think we'll probably get that at Tynecastle in a couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting to see if he sticks him in there. But I would rather see him until now to the end of the season to understand whether he's got it and get him to learn and iron his mistakes out now before we go into next season. And I think if you're not then alternating between Proper, Suter, Balogun when he's back, that's absolutely fine as well because you're just going to keep them fresh for the big games that are coming up. But I think he's got all the tools as well to play without putting square pegs in round holes. I think he's got all the tools to play left back as well. Just to be steady on the ball, and if that's something that we might need. And it'd be interesting to see if he makes the European squad when on the next count as well. So no, all aboard, all good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what approach Philippe Clement takes as we go forward through the rest of the season. I think most of us, if not all of us, have written off any chance of a title challenge for this season, and we're looking more at the Europa League now that we're automatically into the last 16 and seeing how far we can get in that, and also the Scottish Cup and the importance of lifting that trophy at the end of the season. But Kyran, in terms of how you would like to see us approach Nsiala in particular, there are some other younger players like Bailey Rice who we can come on to talk about in a minute, but Nsiala in particular seems to be the closest to starting regularly for the first team. How would you like us to approach it between now and the end of the season, and how do you think we will approach it between now and the end of the season with Nsiala?
It's a real tough one. I think we've went from no centre backs to now having a bit of choice. When you think about it, we've brought Fernandes in. Ultimately, we're going to want to have a proper look at him. You're going to want to see him get game time as well. And I know JB said about Nsiala going into the European squad. I think it's going to come down to between Nsiala and Fernandes and who gets the nod there. I don't know when that needs to be decided right enough. I know we don't play until March, so hopefully between then and now we get a proper look at both of them, because who knows, Fernandes could be even better than Nsiala. And
he was really tall, which was the most surprising part to me today. But he was just towering over Robin Proper.
I bumped into him on Thursday night. Literally bumped into him, and he's bigger than me, and I'm 6'3". And I know the commentators always say 6'3" because that's what it says on Wikipedia. He's bigger than me. I would say he's probably about that. Like I reckon he's 6'5".
He looked up for the fight as well.
He's a big boy.
He was straight in there with Jordan White, trying to be physical and make sure he wasn't out muscled. So I quite like that. But sorry, Kieran, interrupted you there with that.
No, it's just he looks a good prodigy. Everything ticks the boxes. Even recently, I think was he not capped for the Portuguese under 21s. So that obviously bodes well. But sorry, back to your point, Craig, how would I like to see his sort of approach the development of Nsiala? I don't know. It's quite an interesting one. Like, what much more can we do to sort of bed him in and give him game time? And is Clement brave enough to put him into a big game instead of guys like Robin Proper or even Balogun who have performed reasonably well? Or does it come at the expense of, right, Leon Balogun's away at the end of the season, he's getting on a bit, his injury record's not been the greatest, it's time to maybe phase him out and bring one of the younger guys in and let's see what they can do. So for me, that's probably the way that I would go down it. I love Leon Balogun. I think he's been a great servant to Rangers, the two spells he's been here, but his time's running out, unfortunately, due to injuries and inconsistencies. So I think this season's all about developing players and developing young players, and good again to see some of the B team players today. And what we've got to remember is next season we've got no B team. So for these young players, I know there's been a lot of rumours about Lovelace. I just don't know how you can bargain with these boys, given that our poor track record of bringing through youngsters and giving opportunities to youngsters, especially now that there won't be a B team. How do you persuade these guys to stay and ultimately make a career for themselves at Rangers? I just don't know how that you can bargain that.
JB, do you think that's what the club's trying to do just now, in effect, in terms of maybe seeing the opportunity that there are maybe more chances to give players who would traditionally have been in the B team, albeit there's no B team anymore, those younger players, some game time? We've seen quite a bit over the last sort of 10 days, 2 weeks of those younger players coming in. Nsiala, obviously, since the turn of the year, has been in there. Bailey Rice has played more than we've seen before. We saw Finlay Curtis come on against Manchester United. Paul Nco the other night, for example, as well. Do you think the club is maybe signposting that this is how it's going to be going forward, right, to these young players, to say you'll have a chance to stay? Was that Zach Lovelace, I guess, is maybe a bit of a different example, because he came up to us from down south, hasn't had much progress, really struggled with injury, contract coming to an end. If I was him, I probably wouldn't sign a new contract with us, to be honest, especially if Millwall want me back. I think that's kind of where I would stand on that. But JB, do you think, in terms of the overall approach that the club is taking, they're kind of trying to send a message just now to these young players in terms of you will get a chance?
I think so, but you can't forget, you can't walk past the injuries as well. Do you know what I mean? We might be looking at slightly different if Yilmaz was available, Sterling, Casemiro. Who else has been out injured? Obviously, Dal's away. Hagi's had his injuries. Bajami's had form challenges. Cortez's injuries. Lawrence injuries. Matondo's away. Danilo's injured. Yeah. So if all these guys are available, it might be a slightly different picture, and probably throw a Balogun in there as well. So I think it's kind of been enforced but welcomed at the same time as well. I think the Rangers fans have kind of said, we need change, but we need performances at the same time. So if these lads are going to be good enough and throwing them in environments like Old Trafford and doing okay, I think can only be a really good thing. As you touched on there, like Bailey Rice, for example, getting minutes, and Clement said in the post-match as well, he's in the squad now on the back of Kyran leaving the squad. So for me, that's an upgrade, regardless of what he offers from now to the end of the season. He's probably done more today than what Kyran done all season. So in terms of taking positives from that, and the fact that he's one of our own in terms of being able to, he's a free hit in the European squad and stuff, I think it'll be interesting. It was good what Clement said. I can't remember whether we said it offline or online before, around Bailey Rice's in the B team. Clement was not impressed with him at all in terms of his off the ball activity. He just passed the ball and then never moved, was the quote I think Clement used today, which was good, because it's a bit of a wake up call potentially for Bailey Rice in terms of making him aware of what the expectation is at the club, as opposed to, he's been really well talked about. We've seen him play against kids, and against kids, it's such a different game. I remember watching him for one of was it the under-21s or the under-18s, and he was a standout, and you can say, right, him and Lennon Miller, you can kind of see similarities, and people have talked about how Lennon Miller's pushed on. Well, maybe that's a little bit more to do with Lennon Miller as opposed to Rangers and Bailey Rice. So I think we need to again, another one we don't want to get too excited about, but I think it's welcomed, and the manager's actually got a fantastic opportunity to blood these guys, but it's got to be just managed sensibly. I don't know whether you guys had a chance to catch the press, but Lovelace had an injury, so he had a painkiller injection in his toe yesterday, hence why he wasn't in today.
It's one of those weird ones, though, JB, that you're a bit
suspicious.
Cohen section, like it's one of those suspicious.
Yeah, possibly. If he's there at the end of the window, then we'll believe. If he's there on Wednesday, we'll believe him. But if he's not, then maybe not. Because today would have been an ideal opportunity, a bit of a free hit. I was amazed that Czerny lasted the 90, considering he hobbled off at Old Trafford with a suspected hamstring injury only 2 weeks ago. I do question how bad that hamstring was now, given the fact that he's managed to just throw out a 90 minutes and he threw out, was it 70 minutes, 60 minutes on Thursday as well. But yeah, no, I think it's really interesting to see, because you add that then to some of the signings that we've had in. And you also got to remember that lads like Mason Munn has had a run out already this season. Might potentially see him again next Saturday, next weekend as well. I think it'd be a bit harsh on Kelly if he throws Munn in. I think you've got to keep Kelly fresh. But then you start to go through, and I think we spoke about this on one of the pods last week. But there's a real young squad assembling. So if you look at Yilmaz, Nsiala, Sterling, I think it's only 25, Jeffy. Obviously, Leon King, I expect to probably be out the door at some point. Barron, Diamandi, Raskin, Bailey Rice, Cortez, McCausland, Lovelace, Curtis, and Egerman. There's a real good youth team there. So if we can get these guys lots of experience running through this season while still competing, because let's have it right. All of this unravels if we go to Tynecastle in 2 weeks and get beat. Do you know what I mean? And we don't compete. We certainly don't compete. So as great as everything's positive and the fixtures have felt really well, and a good run of home fixtures with a good performance at Dundee United away as well, I think if that's going to be the acid test now for the manager and this team as well. So yeah, no, it's definitely looking more positive than it was probably 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. See, sorry to butt in, Craig. See, on your point about excuse me, the Clement presser saying that about Bailey Rice, how he wasn't effective off the ball. I got to cover the B team a couple of times for this is Ibrox, and that is exactly the observation that I had. I think his role almost felt like a Busquets kind of role, where he was dropping in, making a pass, popping it off, and it's not like he was covering every blade of grass to go and win tackles and stuff like that. And when I see the way Clement plays, and you think last season John Lundstrom covered a lot of ground as a 6. Raskin this season covered a lot of ground. He's pretty much everywhere. And then when I seen Bailey Rice today, it was completely different from when I had seen him for the B team. He did get about a lot more today. And this, you can see what Clement's saying actually happening on the pitch, which is good. If he's going to progress him and use him, and he's got that much hype around him, then why not? Let's try our best with him.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's very fair. Kyran, I'm going to throw in a bit of a rogue question here, but it's one that you've asked a few times in our group chat, because you enjoy a wee check in to see where the mood music is. But Philippe Clement, obviously, however many weeks ago it was now, we all hoped, I think, that Philippe Clement was going to be on his way out the door. It definitely looks like he's here to the end of the season, no matter what. Do you feel, firstly, where are you in terms of Philippe Clement and his long-term future at Rangers? Do you think he should be here? Do you think he shouldn't be here? And how is that changing or being changed by what you're seeing at the moment?
I'm going back and forward on him constantly. Sorry, I can't shake this tickly cough. I don't know at the moment. I really don't know. In terms of, you've got to look at it this way: back-to-back seasons qualifying for the last 6 in the Europa League. It's straight automatic with missing out at 32. That's some achievement. You look at the cards that he's been dealt with this season, especially you look at the bench the other night, basically filled with B team players with very little first team minutes, and he's seemed to carve that result out. He's now sussed out how to play against Celtic. Arguably, we should have won the cup final. And the last game, we would have beat them 3-0 at Ibrox. So you can add that to his resume. But that away form is what got Giovanni van Bronckhorst sacked as Rangers manager, and we're watching history repeat itself. So, like Patrick Stewart said when he came in his first address, that Clement will be the manager, but results have to improve, and I think that's pretty much where I am. Between now and the end of the season, these away results have got to improve. Tynecastle's where it starts. I know we've got a great result up at Dundee United, probably our best away performance domestically of this season. Hopefully that kicks us on to go and do something at Tynecastle. We're in a good period just now where, like today, you can sort of get guys off early, being 3-0 up. How often have we seen that? And that's probably the butt of the injury crisis just now, that we've not been able to kill games early doors and start making changes like the team on the other side of the city do, and that's why they don't seem to suffer as many injuries as us. So you've got to look this week, no midweek game. Queen's Park next weekend, and then no midweek game, and then the following weekend we're away to Hearts. This is a good period for guys to start getting fit and get rested and actually get ready to sort of put a run together in the Scottish Cup and the Europa League if we can go far enough in it. So there's more to come with this squad in terms of Philip Clement and the long-term future at Rangers. I just don't know. I honestly don't know which side of the coin I'm on. I think it was one I'll probably look at the end of the season and assess there. Could we be looking at what happened to Ten Hag, where it looked like he was out the door at Man United? They won the FA Cup, or equivalent would be the Scottish Cup. It's probably the type of thing that might happen here, and he keeps the job and it turns out to be the wrong decision. We don't know. The fact he's brought in an assistant manager on a 3.5-year deal who's been closely linked with Clement throughout his career probably says that the board maybe view him as a long-term solution. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting actually, the appointment, and forgive me, I forget his name, but the appointment of the new assistant manager during the week. That smells to me like a long-term thinking view. You don't bring in more staff for someone you're about to let go and then have to pay off. From that perspective, I think for me it's been a difficult one. I'm probably the same as you, Kyran, in terms of going back and forward a lot on it. Almost go back and forward game by game. Sometimes in the middle of games, go back and forward. I still don't feel like we've put together a full, apart from maybe the Celtic game, we've not put together a full 90-minute performance, really. I was really impressed and really enjoyed the first half today, and the way we were playing football and the movement of the players and all that sort of stuff. And it felt like maybe we had a wee bit of a style coming together, because you see that sort of those patterns of play time and time again at Ibrox, maybe not so much away from home, which is something, but it's difficult to get over that, the away form and the away run, and actually the position we're in already. I think what Gibson 97 makes a good point here when he says every time Clement is on the brink, he pulls a run together. He says, well, it'll be all over again versus Hearts. JB, I think that's a fair point, because it does feel like he's almost at the point of no return, and then we'll go and win in 7 or 8 games, and 2 of them will be in the Europa League, and we're flying again in Europe, and it's difficult to know what to make of it, albeit that we're so far behind in the league now that it's done, and it was done by the turn of the year, never mind now. Where do you stand on Clement, JB?
I think I'm the exact same as you two guys in terms of probably more so Kyran, in terms of you just don't know. I think I'm willing to be patient and kind of until now's the end of the season, but I'm not in the camp of waiting for him to fail just yet. I think in terms of, I was a few weeks ago, it was probably hours and minutes. I think we're all refreshing the timeline like it was transfer deadline day a couple of weeks ago, just waiting for the announcement. But then you everything he kind of seems to be saying seems to be kind of coming to fruition, in terms of the way certain situations and people have been managed. Like Igaman, for example, if Igaman had been thrown in from the first game of the season, the second he was available, where would he have been right now? Would he have been scored twice as many goals? Would his confidence have been shot and he's potentially back in Morocco? You just don't kind of know all these kind of things that go on behind the scenes. But one thing he can't do is have any more horror shows like we've seen at St Mirren, Motherwell, Hibs, Dundee, and all these games as well. We were lucky to get out of there with a point coming towards the end of the games. It's not as if it was one of these ones where you go, oh, we've won 1-0, we battered them for 90 minutes and they scored a last minute equaliser. It was backs against the wall, and it was so predictable. Home form's never going to be a concern. I think he drew all of his home games or something since he's been in charge. Maybe Motherwell was it tail end of last season, where things started to take a bit of a downward spiral. So we know home form's going to be good. I think the fixtures have come at a really good time for him in terms of the type of fixtures and the home fixtures. The European ones don't worry me too much at all. As we said the other week, I think we were all more worried about going to Dundee United than we were going to Man United.
JB, just on the European ones, obviously, I don't think any of us have had any worries about Rangers in Europe under Philip Clement, and actually a lot of impressive performances and results in there. How big a factor is that? Obviously, that's a big factor for the club, because we need to continue to bring in revenue, and we need to continue to to I guess support the coefficient in a way that gives us the opportunities to get into decent stages of European competition, not have to play too many games. But for a lot of fans, probably me included, actually, I'm not that fussed about Europe at the moment. I'd much rather focus on the domestic game and winning trophies there. How does that circle square, I guess, in terms of European form is good, but it doesn't matter to fans, but it matters to the club?
Yeah, no, it's a balance, because at the end of the day, a winning that win on Thursday meant more than winning the league financially. Do you know what I mean? And I know that's not, as fans, I'd rather take the league. I think I'm at the point now where I'd rather take the league over the Europa League. And I know that might sound a bit wild, but that's probably where my head's at. If we win the Europa League, then obviously it's dreamboat scenario. But in that's where I'm at. I kind of want to see us just dominating Scottish football again. It's been far too long. We had a taste of it, and I think we all milked it for all it was worth. But we need to get back into that position, but we need to be competing again. I feel as if for 1 out of 10 years we haven't competed. We competed for three or 4 months, and then it's kind of just took a bit of a nosedive after Christmas or whatever. But we need to get back to that position where we're pushing these to the last game of the season. Now, if we were to push it to the last game of the season, like say next season, and we weren't to win the league, but you turn around again and you go, well, you know what, they give it their all. They've gone out and spent X amount of millions that we haven't got. Then you kind of go, well, getting there, we're just that little bit off, maybe a little bit more investment gets us over the line. But at the moment, we're a million miles away from that point. So we need to start racking wins up. We need to start dominating games from start to finish, not for 45 minutes, because we proved that at Easter Road. We dominated for 45 minutes and didn't do us any good. I think we were 2-1 at half time, 3-1, and then we still managed to balls it up. So I think we definitely need to get back into that position where teams are scared to play against us, because at the moment, especially away from home, teams smell fear when we come to town, and the players seem to show that. I'm a big believer that the players are throwing the manager under the bus as well in certain aspects. They seem to run through brick walls in Europe, whereas domestically they wait for somebody to do something else. We've seen it with Diamandi away at Dundee United the other week. If he hadn't scored that goal, we probably wouldn't have scored in that first half. But it was a bit of magic, and then bang, the players seem to get that level of confidence and then kick on and kick on. So yeah, he needs to find a way over the next. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he needs to find a way from now to the end of the season to convince the fans that there's something there, and he gets it. Because I think my fear for me was there was times, as much as he was making the right noises, I just don't know whether he's getting it in terms of the domestic performances. And like today, for example, where he come out and said the second half wasn't good enough. That's really good. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear that the standards are constant for 90 minutes. I think I referenced it a couple of weeks ago, but Gerrard, we were winning 4-0 against Dundee at home, and he came into the presser after it and he finished 4-0, and he was raging. He's like, these fans have paid good money to come and watch this team, and we've just switched off at half time. That's not good enough. And that's what I want to see from this group. But whereas today, the second half was like a League Cup game or a friendly, because the players just knew they'd done it. Now, I get there's a lot of effort and emotion would have gone into Thursday, which is fine. But the lads coming off the bench should be busting a gut and kind of showing, but yeah, I want a bit of that on Thursday. But instead, everything's just nice. It's really low paced, and that's the stuff I think we need to start. We need to turn that round. The mindset needs to shift. And I say next Sunday's a free hit, but then the Sunday after, is it Sunday or Saturday against going to Tynecastle? That's going to be the acid test for Clement and this group of players.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And Kyran, we'll start to move towards, I guess, the title of this podcast, which is Should Rangers Stick or Twist with Cyriel Dessers as transfer deadline nears. Maybe a bit harsh to name Cyriel Dessers in that one, so we'll be talking about a few players. Cyriel Dessers will be one of them. Hagi, another. Tom Lawrence in there as well. Please do. There's plenty of people been giving us their thoughts in the comments already, but please do stick them in there and we'll bring up as many as we can. But it's been referenced so many times, Kyran, by folk who want that we're at the start of a rebuild. We're not even in the middle of a rebuild. We're at the start of a rebuild, and that outgoings are almost as important, or maybe more important, than incomings at this moment in time. I think it's clear that the club is resetting its wage structure, ripping it up from where it has been beforehand and lowering it. quite a bit. Meanwhile, we are seeing our rivals across the city spending £9-10 million plus several times over for players and strengthening their position and at the top of the league, and it's obviously increases a sort of gap that we then have to try and bridge. How difficult is it, or do you think, how difficult do you think it's going to be for us to be able to do that? We've also got a young squad as well just now. When you talk about potentially spending £6 million on a Cherny or £7 million on a Sima, for example, that they seem like, right, if someone spends £7 million on something, they need to come in and deliver over and above what they're already delivering when they've been at the club on loan or whatever. Whereas other Celtic, for example, are able to take punts on people at that kind of level. How difficult a job do you think this is going to be, and how important is it that we get so many more right than we get wrong in terms of the decisive nature of whether people stay or go?
Yeah, it's the golden sort of question with football, that how many transfers can you get right and get wrong? Now, you look back, the Ross Wilson transfers, which have ultimately left us in the position we're in just now. Players of a high age on a high wage come in for a high fee that offer no value in terms of moving them on and bringing a bit more money back in. How we're going to kickstart being able to compete with them again is going to be down to something along the lines of a big sale, an Igaman going for good money, or a Jefte going for good money, or can we qualify for the Champions League? At that, it's a game changer. And that's what we need to be working towards. For this to work, then we're going to need some sort of investment coming inwards in which we can speculate to accumulate almost, with buying a higher quality of player to then turn over for a higher amount of money. But we may have got very lucky with Igaman and Jefte, and probably throw Diamandi in there as well, because I definitely think the best is yet to come from him. In terms of this window, I've been quite disappointed so far. I feel that if we're in the middle of a rebuild, given the players that we've pushed out the door, guys like Dow and Matondo that's freed up, I'm led to believe, around about £2 million in wages per year, then why aren't we going and adding to the squad and trying to bed these guys in for things like the Champions League qualifiers and being ready for next season? Because you look at guys like, again, Jefte and Igaman, even Robin Proper, I'll put him in there as well, that the new guys, Nsiala as well, it's took them a good 6 months to bed in, to actually realise what it's like at Rangers. So in terms of getting that transfer model moving, we need something. We need something to give. We need a big sale of some sort. But I've been disappointed with only one signing this window.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where actually at the start of the window, the club were clearly trying to manage expectations. We had the whole float calling out Patrick Stewart to come out and tell us what the plan is. Whenever the chief exec is coming out to say what the transfer plan is, you know he's not going to be coming out and saying we're going to be spending 30 million quid. So I think the number of people or players that we expected to come in is being low. So I don't think there's any expectations that there would be an absolute barrel load coming in. Potentially the fact that we've had sort of one centre half come in and that be that is a bit lower in terms of the positional additions that I think we need, to be honest. I think a wide player, for example, is one that we absolutely do need, and we can come on to talk about the different areas of the squad that we'd potentially like to see an addition or two over the final day or two of the transfer window. But JB, I have no idea if you're still with us or not. Your camera's off. You can.
He's morphed into a Cyriel character.
I know. I'll pause for a second and see if you respond. JB, are you still with us?
He's been kidnapped.
There we go. He's. We'll remove JB for a second, and hopefully he will make a return very soon. But Kyran, Cyriel Dessers, he's been a bit of an enigma. At Rangers, he was the highest last calendar year. He was the highest scoring. He was the highest scoring player in the Scottish Premiership. More goals than Kyogo, for example, in the last calendar year. He is immensely frustrating time and time again when you watch him, because you see how many chances you think he should score, but he still gets the goals. He still gets the numbers. 6 goals in his last 8 games. and he was the one that we were relying to carry the team as well, as we were going through that early stage of the season where Igaman was trying to get up to speed, Danilo was injured. We were relying on Cyriel Dessers time and time again. Where do you stand on Cyriel Dessers, and whether you'd like to keep him or whether you think actually his stock's as high as it's going to get just now and we should cash in if we can?
Yeah, I think in terms of Dessers, where we are with him at Rangers is his role at the moment is exactly the role that it should have been. I'd still say he's our third choice striker when everybody's fit. Given Danilo's injury, he's found his way back into the team. That goal, he got the hat-trick versus Fraserburgh, and then the goal at Old Trafford has really kicked him on, and he's hit a bit of form. But I think this is what you get. I think we've seen this all before, and it's all far too familiar with Cyriel Dessers that he will go through these purple patches, and then it will come to when we really need him the most, and things just kind of fall down round about him. I didn't think he was great today. But the positive side of him is he will get you numbers. He's consistently fit. He'll give you 100%. In terms of selling him, would I sell him? Not unless we've got somebody else that's coming in the other way. It would be absolutely crazy to sell him, given that Danilo's injured. We've not really been given a timeline. As far as we know, it's short term, but still on that, like Danilo can't be relied on. He's been unlucky with his injuries. It's not as if it's been like fatigue injuries or like muscle strains. It's the 3 bad impact injuries that I've seen him miss a lot of times. So in terms of selling Dessers, if all strikers were fit and if they were consistently fit, I would bite the hand off anybody to come in with a bid right now, given that he's on a lot of money and given his age and his numbers. His numbers are quite good. I'd probably say you're selling him at peak just now. So for me, I would move him on, but I don't think I would move him on at the expense of having no backup to Hagi. We need to be sensible about that. But again, though, you could probably say he's still going to have good numbers come the end of the season. So there's nothing to say that you're not going to get a good fee for him then, albeit he will be 6 months older. So that's kind of where Rangers are at the moment. I think if a decent enough bid comes in, he'll be gone.
Yeah, plenty of people obviously have a view on this one, so I'm going to bring in a lot of the comments that have been coming in over the last sort of 5 minutes or so. Hugo Bayer says sell Dessers in the summer. Luke Gibson 97, if we get our money back and there is a replacement lined up, take it. Colin Cooper, he's always available and scores. Juicy Bear Gaming says Dessers absolutely must stay. Danilo is always injured. AJWTF says Dessers only goes if there's a good offer. John Keane, we should keep Dessers. He's played well recently. And Juicy Bear Gaming again, just disagreeing with what you said there about he absolutely isn't third choice. Danilo isn't good enough. He's always injured and his goal return doesn't match Dessers in any way. So I assume that means that he thinks Dessers is second choice. But I wanted to pick up this point from Rangers on Tour. Anyone could see Dessers as a guy who would play better off a striking partner. The original 4-2-3-1 formation killed us. That's something we have seen adjust slightly from Philippe Clement, probably since the sort of the Motherwell St Mirren debacle of a week that was in between Christmas and New Year. And we've seen Dessers and Igaman playing in the same team a lot more often, and we do seem to see that Dessers isn't quite as frustrating, shall we say. Since that stage, we seem to be getting the best out of Dessers, and he seems to have been hit a bit of a purple patch at the same time, playing with another striker in and around there. How important do you think that switch has been, I guess, and how important can that be for us as we go forward, if Cyriel Dessers is still part of the makeup of the squad?
It has worked. I think it's helped improve him. Has it helped improve us as a team? Maybe controversial. I don't think so. I think we were much better with Danilo and Hagi up front, because it looks like it's came at the expense of Hagi almost. Hagi was pushed out to the left through the week on Thursday night, and even today was sort of in that 10 role. For me, our best performances have come when Hagi's been playing through the middle, with Danilo off of him or a 10 off of him. So to the point that someone disagreeing with me there that Dessers isn't the third choice, he very much is for me, because if Danilo, Dessers and Igaman are fit, I'm having Igaman up front with Danilo in behind them, because that's been the turnaround for Clement since the disaster which was between Christmas and New Year, albeit the Old Firm result aside. So moving forward for me, if we can get the right money and we can get a replacement in, even a project striker that's going to come in, they're either young, they're raw, they're going to get that run of games that potentially we could have another lottery ticket on our hands like Igaman, then why not?
Yeah, to be fair, I always think Rangers, your third striker should be a young up-and-coming. Ideally, came through the Rangers youth setup, and they get occasional minutes here and there to get experience in the first team. Obviously, we've not had that. I mean, you probably name on one hand the number of Rangers strikers that have actually come through the youth setup over the last 20, 30, 40 years, to be honest, on that. So we don't have a great track record on that, but I do feel that should be the space that we have for a young up-and-coming player.
Yeah, let me throw this back at you guys. That if we were to play Celtic tomorrow, would you start Dessers?
Are we assuming everyone's fit, or are we?
No, current squad. I'd say if we played Celtic tomorrow, would you start Dessers?
I'll go back Craig's thinking. No for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't come in. Igaman would lead the line. Igaman would lead the line, and he'd have to come in off. He'd be an option off the bench. I think we found a formation that works in Europe and that works against them. That doesn't tend to have two strikers. Do you know what I mean? So it was Igaman last time, and then Danilo come on later on, and then come into the 10. But no, I don't think that formation suits. I think the big difference between Dessers and Danilo is clever movement. I don't think Dessers has got that clever movement in his locker. When the ball's in his vicinity, then he offers something. His hold-up play was really good on Thursday, for example, and today you could see he looked a bit more confident than he has in previous weeks. But I think for me, he's if we were to go out and replace him, then I think we're not going to replace somebody that's going to score the amount of goals that he scored. I think that's one thing we need to probably be quite realistic with. If we're going to go out and sign someone that I think he scored 1 in 2 since he's been here, it's there or thereabouts. I think I was reading earlier, it was something like 86 appearances, 40 goals and 11 assists. Them numbers are incredible.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
However, how many more would the team have scored collectively if we'd have had somebody, if Danilo had stayed fit, for example, and there's the old famous words, if he stayed fit, if Roof stayed fit, so on and so forth. But I think it's almost a case of we need to find a profile of a striker that suits the way that Clement wants to play. And I don't think that is Dessers, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think Dessers has taken, I think the last 10 days or so, some of his finishes have been fantastic. Yeah, he was unlucky. I think we were joking on the pod on last week. I think he's just realised he's left-footed because everything seems to swing at left footer. There was one he put just over the bar today, and he thought, Jesus, where's that been? But no, I think he's. I don't think we'll replace a player that will get as many goals, but might be more involved in the all-round play, which is what we've seen with Danilo. I think what you were saying there, Kyran, is what we were seeing with Danilo and Igaman, in the fact Igaman's having to play deeper to compensate the fact that Dessers' movement isn't as good. Yeah. Whereas the Danilo was clever, he could drop in sometimes, and Igaman could go high, and that's why the two, I think, complemented each other. Apologies for stepping away there.
No, you're all right. I'll come back to you. You managed to miss the actual key question of it, and we stuck all on Kyran. But before I ask you that, JB, Kyran, I think I have to agree with what JB said. I don't think Dessers would be in that starting lineup. I think maybe for as long as I've been watching Rangers, it's felt like we've had one team that plays Europe and Celtic and one team that takes on everyone else. I don't know how we get to a stage where we have the same team that just takes on everyone. Yeah. It felt like, especially up front in those striking positions, we've had certain strikers that play the bigger games and certain strikers that will bang the goals in against the rest. And it kind of feels like we're still in that space at the moment. But JB, overall, obviously given your thoughts on Dessers there, but stick or twist with him at this stage?
I think he stays till the end of the season, but that gives the club till the end of the season to rotate him out. I think we could bring somebody in until now to the end of the season. I say we brought another Iggerman in. I'm not saying we're going to get somebody of that talent, but if we brought somebody in with, say, half the ability, then he's going to take a couple of months to settle in. I don't think there's anyone out there. There's the natural names that will jump out to people that we've spoke around on previous pods, but unless there's somebody on the shelf ready that we've been chasing for a long time, and this is the time to grab them, then I think we've just got to stick with it to the end of the season. Because at the end of the day, he's going to finish the season on. He'll probably finish the season on 25 goals for the season, and we've been crying for something like that for a number of years, and he's going to give us it. It's just going to be his limitations on when we really need, and when we need a 1-0 Dessers. I don't know how many times that's happened in the time in his 40 goals. Have we had many 1-0 Dessers, 2-0 Dessers?
It's been a handful, I think. I don't.
Yeah,
it's not definitely not zero anyway.
Yeah. But when we've really needed it, you just know that if there's one chance falling, if you're having a stuffy game and you've got one chance that's going to fall to someone, you don't want it to fall to him, do you? Let's have it right. Again, he can do the spectacular. Almost it feels when the pressure's off. He's a fantastic player for it to bring off the bench. When you don't need a goal, because what he'll come on and he'll score because he gives you that. Then you might turn around and we'll come on at Old Trafford and obviously contributed the way that he did, and he finished the game off at Tannadice last week as well. So he's in a good vein of form. One thing I would say for the big man, for all his faults, he's available to play football. And I don't know whether we can put a price on that at the moment as well. So I think for what we need, let's get through till the end of the season with him. But do we need better long term? Then the answer is definitely yes to that as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there's loads of views on that, but definitely the consensus seems to be we can't have a third choice striker that's on the wages that Cyriel Dessers is currently on, and I think that's fair when you look at what's happening to the rest of the squad and actually other areas we need to strengthen as well. So I think that's fair. Please do continue to give us your thoughts on Cyriel Dessers, and if you think we should stick our twist over the next couple of days, but also in the summer. Another player, Kyran, will come to you first of all. That's rumoured to have been offered. It's kind of, we've seen both sides of the rumour. He's been rumoured to be offered a new contract, but he's also been rumoured to not be offered a new contract. Is Hagi. He, I think, has been immense since he came. Immense, maybe a bit far, probably not. I think he's been really good since he came back into the fold after the whole B team stuff. I still don't really know what the real reason behind that was, and I'm actually really happy that he's back in and been part of the squad again. 6 months left of his contract. I think, as with any footballer, when your contract's running down and you're about to look for another one or sign a new one, you're going to want a bump in pay. That seemed to be part of the issue that led to him being put into the B team in the first place. But given Hagi and when he has been looking for another club in the last couple of windows, I'd say he's maybe not had the level of club looking at him and making him serious offers that he would have hoped or his dad would have hoped. And that's maybe meant that he came back to Rangers and said, no, I need to give this a real proper go. And I really need to sort of cement myself in this team and show what I can do, which I think is partly what we've been seeing. But Hagi, one, would you offer him a new contract? And two, would you, if you're Hagi, would you want a new contract at Rangers?
Yeah, I'd 100% offer him a new contract, but it's got to be right for all parties. In terms of Hagi, you've touched on it there, Craig, that when he was touting around, we were trying to find a transfer and we were trying to move him on, and he was trying to find another club, and I don't think we would have been very hard to deal with whatsoever in order to get him off the wage bill. And he couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't find a club. He went away to, was it Alaves last year?
Yeah.
Didn't really hit the ground running there either. He came back here, and has he earned a new contract? 100% yes. He's had an excellent vein of form from us since coming back into the team, and it's no coincidence whatsoever that when Hagi came into the squad and Iggerman was brought into the squad as well at the same time, that things started to look a lot better for Philippe Clement, and we started to look like a better side. So for me, the club are on the back foot almost. I think Hagi holds the aces for his contract in this one, and in comparison to last year where it was the other way about. I think that the club should be sort of doing everything they can to hold on to him and keep him here next year, not so much as a guy that would hold value that we can move on, more so a guy with experience that can show leadership qualities. And from everything I heard from management around the B team, that he was brilliant with the youngsters when he was down there in the B team. His attitude is probably the best that you'll see in football. We've really got to make an effort to keep Hagi. We're a far better side with him in it. So again, we've got to be clever with wages. We can't go overpaying him, and this was the sticking point. If you're led to believe as to why he wasn't in the team at the start of the season, we've got to be sensible about that. From what I gather, there's a 1 year trigger on his contract that we can trigger an extra year on the contract. I know that people have said he's out of contract at the end of the season. From what I've gathered, there is a trigger there. I do not know what that would entail or what sort of money that would involve, but I think we're going to see things repeat themselves in terms of getting around the table with him, his agent, his dad, our representatives, and kind of iron out something that's sensible for all parties. But yeah, I'd love to see him here next year. He's a joy to watch.
Yeah, I think that's fair. JB, before I come and ask you the question, a few comments. Coming in, Cafe Mambo says Hagi must stay. Mays says Hagi should definitely be offered a new contract. Rangers on tour. Hagi and Raskin are huge players for us. They have the ability, but they have the desire to win that we always saw in former legends of the club. Andy Mack says Hagi needs a new contract, but cut in pay as no one seems to come in for him. I don't think he would accept a cut in pay, if I'm honest. And then Cafe Mambo, again, one of the players we have whose first thought is to play forward and can split the lines, chips in with goals and assists, absolutely no-brainer. He must stay. JB, the consensus seems to be that we all like Giannis Hagi and we want him to be a Rangers player. For me, it has to be on the right terms, though, for the club, and we can't be held to ransom for it. Where are you on the sticker twist with Giannis Hagi?
I think it's exactly that. It's got to be sensible. I think somebody used the example a couple of weeks ago. This might sound a bit wild, but Robin Propper apparently is only on about 12 grand a week. So therefore, if we need to rotate Robin Propper back to Holland or to Belgium or somewhere, he wouldn't be hard to deal with because he'd probably get similar or same money if he goes back. I think what's happened with Giannis Hagi over the last few windows, nobody's going to give him the money that we're giving him. Dessers, no one's going to give him the money. Sam Lammers, Todd Cantwell. We're wondering why all these players are getting given away for free. It's because previous regimes have given these guys top wages for underperforming performances. Kyran Dessers, another one, Rabbi Matondo. These guys have all been on an absolute fortune in comparison to some of their teammates and definitely in comparison to the rest of the league. And we're not getting value for them. Now, Giannis Hagi, we're probably getting value for his current wage. However, I don't think he's probably worth more than his current wage because I know he would have been on a decent whack for when he come in. So I think we just need to be sensible and we can't be pushed around by players that are sellable assets anymore. We can't get ourselves in that position because how many of the playing squad does he deserve to be on more than? Now, he might be looking at it and going, I want the same wages as Bajrami, for example. And that's where we've got to be very careful because we bring someone like Bajrami in from, was he Serie A or Serie B? But
yeah,
he's coming for
Sassuolo, was it?
So he's coming for a decent fee, and I imagine he's probably coming in for a decent salary, and he's not getting a game. So you've got it's things like that we've got to make sure that we move away from. And it wasn't too long ago he had that horror injury, and he's only been back. Let's have it right. He only came back into the squad a few months ago. He hasn't been in for months and months and months. He hasn't had that full run of fixtures. He hasn't gone through a full pre-season with us yet. So I think it'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. I like him. I think a few people have used it there. I love his characteristics. I love the way that he talks. I love the way that he plays the game. He always gives you numbers. He's one of the guys that mightn't give a lot for 90 minutes, but he'll create a chance or he'll score a goal. It was ever so important, and I keep referring back to it in the 55 season because that's the measurement of success for us. But Again, to your point, Craig, I wouldn't be held to ransom on him either, because I don't think any player we should be now, other than Iggerman. Give him what he wants.
It seems to be as a club, which I think is absolutely the right move, that we're moving away from effectively giving players what they've wanted in the past, to more saying, no, here's our structure, and if you are happy to fit into that structure, then great, we'll sign you a contract, we'll get you on board. If you're not, then see you later. Are you comfortable with that approach from the club?
I think we've got to. Yeah, I think we've got to be realistic. I think the type of player that we're signing now and the profile and everything. If you look at your Hefties and your Iggermans and your one or two others, Connor Barron's, Nsiala, these guys are coming in on probably half the wages that some of the dross that we moved on last season. I mean, if you look at Dessers and Danilo, for example, that they'll be on top whack then too. And if we get value for money of them, you could argue we are from Dessers in terms of the numbers that he's producing. However, and his robustness. However, in terms of a lot of the other players we brought in over the years, it just hasn't been there. So hence the reason why we're in the mess that we're in, and the reason why we can't get rid of these players. Because let's have it right, a lot of these players are good players. Ben Davies is a good player. Do you know what I mean? For example, but he's just not right for Rangers, and he certainly wasn't right on the salary that he was on. I seen Birmingham City tweeted the other day saying, calling him the Rock at the back. You're like, who is this guy? But again, he's by all accounts, we're still contributing towards his wages, because League One Birmingham, who are throwing money about like there's no tomorrow, couldn't afford to pay the wages that we were paying him, or didn't want to pay the wages that we were paying him. So we need to get away from that quickly, and if that means that we need to clear the current decks to change that mentality within this, even if it's just this playing squad, then that, unfortunately, that's what we're going to need to do.
Yeah, Kyran, as we go forward, I keep thinking the transfer window closes tomorrow, but I think it's Tuesday. If I'm
Tuesday,
correct.
11 p.m.
Tuesday.
So a couple of days left as we record this on Sunday night. A couple of days left of the January transfer window. We were told that, we discussed it on the podcast as well, that expectations were being managed, and we'd sign one, maybe two players if the opportunity was right. I think there's been rumours going around that we're in for a winger. Just a young winger seems to be what's been said on social media at this moment in time. No names or anything for us to dig into on that one, but would a winger be the next key position, you think, for us to get us through to the end of the season, I guess, in terms of just adding a bit of quality in that area of the park? Or would there be another area that you would like to see us focus on as well?
Maybe another right back. A winger does seem sensible, given the injuries to guys like Cortez, etc. out there, and we've not got real depth. But in terms of right back, there's nobody really backing up Tavernier since the injury to Casemiro, and Sterling's abysmal injury record as well. Funnily enough, we gave him an extension. So yeah, possibly a right back and a winger. I don't know if we're going to hold on to Czerny after this season. So a winger which we can develop and have ready for next season would be sensible. This is the one that wingers and strikers just get you excited though, don't you, in terms of transfers? I like how we unknown coming in, so I'm looking forward to seeing who this is if the rumours are true.
Yeah, I think, like you say, the other ones that get us excited, but we do need to improve in the final third. We need to immeasurably improve in the final third, from chance creation to finishing to creativity in and around the box against teams that do play that low block. Pace as well, I think we really need to improve somehow within the squad. JB, where do you stand on where you'd like to see an improvement or two over the next couple of days?
Yeah, I think you've touched on it there. I think we're still far too slow at getting up the park quickly. I think a lot of our goals have been scored recently of breaking teams down and like almost slogging it out at times, or a really good strike from distance or whatever it might be. We don't score tap-ins, which is one of my... When was the last time you seen us hitting the foot, a pacey winger, squaring it for a tap-in? they're the type of goals we should be scoring en masse. The team on the other side of the city do a fantastic job of it. Let's not deny it. That's what they do. They're trained. If someone says to you, describe one of their goals, you're going to say, oh, to one winger to the other, or the centre forwards nipped in. You describe a Rangers goal, and it's been a pot shot from 25 yards, and just because we haven't had that option of somebody, even if you look at the likes of Czerny, he wants to cut inside. Cortez is all right foot and wants to cut inside when he's fully fit, if he's ever fully fit. We just don't seem to have that wing option that can hit the byline at pace. Ramatondo had the tools to do it, but definitely didn't have the mentality. Of course, he turned into prime Messi earlier on this afternoon as soon as he left us. But no, I would love to see a Seamer type winger, a strong athletic winger that can play on either side would kind of be the dream boat for me from now to the end of the season. But again, you touched on it. You could probably look to say another central midfielder as well, just to give us a bit more strength and depth. We were crying out for a 6, albeit I think Raskin has kind of made that position his own. I still think maybe an experienced 6 just to come in, just to see, just to a steady head in certain games, which might even allow Nico Raskin to maybe step forward one and just be that bit of a bulldog that we know we can be. So a winger and a 6, I think, would do for me. But if anyone was to go out, then we replace them as well. So if you were to lose a Dessers or a say Igerman, then we go out and replace it with as best quality as we can get.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I probably agree with you actually on a central midfielder. I think for all that Raskin and Diomande seem to do pretty well together, they both go wandering at the same time, and it leaves a big gap in the middle of the midfield. And I think we do just need a, dread to say it, and I don't want him back, but a John Lundstrom kind of character who just sits in that space, and mops up. John Lundstrom wasn't very good at it, but just mops up any sort of counter attack. Kind of
Rodri. We just need a Rodri.
Just get him in. That's fine.
Yeah, something like that.
Use the money from Dessers for him.
Aye. So, and just a little bit, we were speaking about a winger there. Buenos John says the winger is said to be Portuguese, so maybe that's a keep an eye on this one over the next couple of days. But we're just past the hour mark, so I think we'll round off the podcast there. But thank you very much to Kyran and JB for joining us. Thank you very much, everyone, for your comments. They've been flying in all the way throughout the podcast. Much appreciated. As always, if you enjoyed the content, please do drop a like. Helps us massively, as does subscribing to the TII YouTube channel or wherever you get your audio podcasts. It means you don't miss out on any of the content coming up, and it means you can join us for all our live stuff as well. Kyle and the team will be back on Wednesday night, so make sure you watch out for that one. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and until next time.